as other members arrive. Let's turn to item number 17, members. This is AB 857. This is the clean truck technology.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, as I stated in my opening, appreciate all the work you and your committee have done on this. I know this has been complicated, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here in front of you as the bill continues to move forward. Let me begin by saying that I will be accepting the amendments as agreed upon with the chair to raise the renewables percentage to 30% starting in 2018 and 50% in 2020. AB 857 would help California lower greenhouse gas emissions and reduce air pollution by providing incentives for industries to purchase near-future heavy-duty trucks with 90% lower emission engines than 2010 standards. Air pollution has a negative effect on human health, often disproportionately within disadvantaged communities along transportation corridors, increasing asthma, cancer, and premature death. In the South Coast and San Joaquin Valley air districts, nearly 80% of smog-forming pollutants, such as oxides of nitrogen, NOx, come from mobile sources, where heavy-duty vehicles are the #1 producer of NOx. Federal ozone standards require at least a 65% reduction in NOx emissions by 2023 and an 80% reduction by 2032. These early reduction goals are critical to our citizens' health and to avoid implementation of an onerous federal implementation plan that would have negative impact on our economy. Last month, a Fresno Bee article discussed the real possibilities of the federal government taking over the San Joaquin Valley's air cleanup. This could lead to higher expenses on businesses, banning driving or farming under certain conditions, and freezing $2.5 billion in federal transportation funds. AB 857 would allocate no less than 50% or $100 million during the period between 2018 and 2023 towards supporting the commercial deployment of zero and near zero emission heavy-duty truck technologies that meet or exceed a specific emissions standard. We anticipate that these funds will allow for the successful deployment of 20,000 clean trucks throughout the life of the program. These clean trucks running on blends of renewable natural gas could prevent more than 2,200 tons of GHGs from being released per day. Replacing one diesel truck is the equivalent of replacing six cars with electric cars with respect to GHG emissions and 88 cars with respect to NOx emissions. By incentivizing the deployment of 20,000 clean trucks, we will be cleaning up some of the state's biggest contributors to air pollution and greenhouse gases. This is a very important opportunity, not just for California, but for places like the Central Valley and South Coast, who are looking for every opportunity to reduce emissions in the near future, as well as long into the future. We believe AB 857 is a critical piece to helping places like the San Joaquin Valley meet their air quality attainment goals set forth by the federal government, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
I know this is, Senator Pavley's not here, so in her absence, I'll ask the question that I know she's going to ask, is that when you look at, is it SB 1204, you got $148 million. It looks like this takes about 2/3 of that, and there's other technologies. It's competition. Your answer for the senator from the Central Coast. I know she'd ask it if she was here, so might as well let's have a discussion.
Well, we wanted to, we wanted to be careful in how we crafted this, and really what we were looking to do is begin a start date for our program when the other ended, and so I'm not sure where the idea of taking from one. So maybe I'd leave it up, ask my sponsors to, or some of our advocates to answer that question.
Chair Wachowski, Tim Carmichael with the California Natural Gas Vehicle Coalition. I also worked on 1204 last summer. So two clarifications. One, in 1204, there was a provision for using about 20% of the funding for the deployment of heavy-duty trucks that sunsets at the end of 2017. This bill, also keying on the deployment of heavy-duty trucks, starts in 2018. A key distinction between the two is 1204 would fund the deployment of trucks that are available for sale today, meeting 2010 emission standards. 857 is limited to funding, providing incentives for trucks that meet what we consider the next generation of emission standards, 90% cleaner than what's available today. So there's a different classification of what will get funded there. As far as the overall funding and the percentage of funding, it's true that 1204 covers about $150 million of funding. We've always anticipated that that pot is going to grow, not stay stagnant over the next 5 to 7 years, and that's been part of the calculus. It is a lot of money, but if you look at, 857 proposes to target a lot of money, but if you look at the projections from the air districts, South Coast, San Joaquin Valley, and others, for 2023, heavy-duty trucks are the biggest unaddressed source of pollution. After all the programs on the books today are implemented in 2023, heavy-duty trucks are the biggest piece of the pie. So there's a lot more work to be done with that segment. There's a lot of good stuff happening with R&D, with future zero-emission technologies. The piece that's missing in our state strategy is what more can we do to get clean trucks on the road in the near term?
Yeah, I'm just saying, we're moving from a cap of 20% to a floor of 50%. That's just, and there's just these zero emission, these other competitions at the medium-sized trucks and things like that. I mean, accepting the fact that there's a desirability to tackle this segment. It's just the balance, and surprisingly, the chair of appropriations, Mr. Laura, was also an author of that legislation. So getting the right balance, I just wanted to, this is a primer for.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair, and just briefly, I mean, look, we're with 857, we're asking the legislature to make a very significant policy call, and I understand that it's important for us to have resources available to encourage and incentivize future technologies, whatever they may be, 5, 10 years down the road. And I think we are doing a lot of that. What I worry about that as we continue to think about the long-term future, we're not really investing in the near term. And what concerns me is that for every year that passes, that golden technology is not commercially viable, I'm representing constituents that are breathing dirty air. And it's a challenge, and we need to figure out ways to continue to be forward-thinking 5 to 10 years out, but we shouldn't let that preclude us from making big investments on the short term, the near term, and the midterm. And I think we would be doing a big disservice to many of our constituents. I mean, look, I'm raising my family in Fresno. I have a young daughter, a young son. I want them to breathe cleaner air, and certainly I want to incentivize that future technology, whatever it might be, that is absolutely at zero. But until we get there, I'm afraid that we'll pass up on technologies that can help us breathe cleaner air in our communities. And diesel trucks, again, Fresno Bee did a great article that pointed out that diesel trucks is the biggest unaddressed source of pollution in the Central Valley, because we're a major trade corridor with the I-5 and the 99, and we have zero control over what happens on those corridors. So providing these incentives will help us get, I think, in the right direction.
Let's hear from your first witness.
Good morning. My name is Brett Lane. I serve as the Chief Operating Officer for Southern California Gas, the nation's largest gas distribution company. I'd like to give a little perspective rather than going through some of the ground already covered. As a utility, we've been addressing the issues in particular with air pollution for the past, I know I have, over 30 years. And we've seen significant progress being made, especially in the two basins in particular most impacted that we have. Unfortunately, the two most polluted in the country, between the Los Angeles area and the San Joaquin area. We've been heavily involved with our own operations as well as our different customer bases in pushing for technology development and deployment, and have made significant strides. Where we're still lacking is in the mobile side. And we think and fully support the author's bill of moving forward, because we see this as an opportunity to address not only climate change with greenhouse gases, but also air pollution, which is a very pressing need in a shorter-term horizon while technology continues to develop. Some of the technology we're looking at, and again, we're heavily involved in elements of these technology developments, it could be 5, 10 to 20 years away. We want to continue pushing with that development, but also not lose sight of the opportunities that we have today and in the very near term to address both components of both GHG as well as air pollution. And for these reasons, we strongly support this bill.
Anything to add?
If I could add one point, please. Tim Carmichael, the California Natural Gas Vehicle Coalition. We are supporters of this bill because we see it as a three-fer. Not only are we incentivizing the next generation of truck technologies, 90% cleaner, which we think is critically important for smog-forming emissions. With this renewable amendment, we're going to take a big step forward in reducing greenhouse gases coming from the trucking sector. And the third part is this is a key piece of the strategy in achieving our petroleum reduction goals in the state. We can't get to a 50% reduction if we don't significantly reduce diesel usage as well as gasoline usage. And this incentive package will help with that as well. Thank you.
Others in support of AB 857.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Ryan Kenny, Clean Energy, and very strong support. Thank you.
I'll let people come forward. Supporters, please come forward to the mic.
Morning. My name is Veronica Padilla. I'm the executive director of an environmental justice nonprofit called Pacoima Beautiful in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. And I am here in support because we need clean air today. Thank you.
My name is Teresa Marquez. I'm representing Mothers of East LA. I'm from Boyle Heights, where all the freeways meet. Over 6 freeways meet there, and most of them are diesel. And we have an average of 137 children being admitted to hospitals every day because of asthma attacks versus the state of California, which is only 86.2. So you could see, and this is studies from 2009, we are seeing, there is evidence in our neighborhoods about children having to carry an inhaler or some kind of asthmatic medicine in their backpacks. Please, I support this bill 100%. Thank you.
Next.
Good morning, Jorge Morales, Mayor of the City of Southgate, which is along the 710 freeway, just 10 miles north of the Port of Long Beach. Grew up with asthma. It was a part of my daily life. I have a 7-month-old. I hope it's not a part of his life. I hope you'll consider supporting this bill. Thank you very much.
Mayor, welcome to San Francisco or Sacramento, wherever we're at.
My name is Terry Griffin, and I'm also with Mothers of East LA, and I strongly support 857. The children, we have to think of the children. They have to breathe clean air, and I strongly support this bill.
Thank you. Next.
Ron Leverage, Director of the Center of Sustainable Suburban Development at UC Riverside, former Mayor Riverside for 19 years, 18 years on South Coast Board, 8 years on CAR Board. Just one illustration of the importance for the South Coast is our neighboring city is about to approve, likely next week, a project when built out will bring 14,000 trucks to our essentially our area. This is premises that the Assemblyman identified are important, and I urge your approval.
Thank you.
Sylvia Solisha on behalf of the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District and on behalf of the boards of supervisors for the counties of Kern, Madera, and Tulare. We believe this bill will go a long way in cleaning up the valley air. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Johannes Escudero with the Coalition for Renewable Natural Gas and strong support of the bill. On behalf of our 70 members who produce 90% of the renewable natural gas nationwide, we recognize this bill as yet another opportunity expanding a platform for natural gas vehicles, which will enable the lowest carbon transportation fuel of any kind to be blended into existing natural gas fuel supplies. To support the bill.
Okay, let's hear from the opposition to the bill as amended. Puts a little renewable section there. Please come forward. We'll take first two and then everybody else.
Hello, I'm Urvi Negrani coming from Motive Power Systems, and I'm here to speak in opposition to the bill. At Motive Power Systems, we build an all-electric powertrain that is used in a variety of vehicles, including the first all-electric school bus in the state of California, the first all-electric refuse truck in North America, and community shuttles running through the city of Mountain View right now. In Assemblyman Perea's district is where that first all-electric school bus was operating. In Senator Wachowski's district is where our manufacturing facility is in a disadvantaged part of Hayward. And most of our projects are located in disadvantaged communities throughout California, including in the South Coast Air Quality District, the San Joaquin Valley, and also here in the city of Sacramento, we're about to start making some refuse trucks. As a builder of a powertrain control system that is used in both medium and heavy duty trucks, one of the things that we have a great concern about is by removing the funding for medium duty trucks, you're actually making it harder for the builders of truly zero-emission vehicles to access that heavy-duty marketplace. The same powertrain that we use in our all-electric school bus uses a 4-battery system with our adaptive power converters, a motor, and batteries. That exact same powertrain uses a 10-battery system to run the Chicago refuse truck. However, in Senator Wachowski's district, when we're manufacturing those components, it doesn't matter whether we're building it for a heavy-duty truck or whether we're making it for a medium-duty truck. They all go through the same assembly line. If you remove the funding that is used for medium-duty trucks, we won't access those same volumes of scale that enable us to make those components cheaply, making it more expensive to make both zero-emission heavy-duty trucks and making it harder for people to buy medium-duty trucks. What that means is, for example, in the San Joaquin Valley Air District, where 1 in 5 kids carries an inhaler, their biggest source of particulate matter that they're breathing in daily is that school bus getting to and from school. That zero-emission school bus is not going to be eligible for funding. Work trucks that are driving through your neighborhood are not going to be eligible for funding. Your FedEx delivery vehicles, all sorts of vehicles that are ideal for electrification because they park in the same place every night, they have no anxiety about their range, they use regenerative braking, they operate in residential areas. These are all areas where we can start electrifying vehicles today and where funding will be reduced. Most fleets don't make decisions quickly. They're very slow. They tend to evaluate technology slowly. So just because the technology is here today, it doesn't mean they're going to buy it today. They're probably going to be buying it in 3 to 5 years. So when you talk about legislation in 2018, that's going to change the fleet's ability to evaluate it now. Because when they buy a vehicle now, they want to know, is it going to work for my fleet today? And do I want to be able to scale it up? If they see the funding is going to go away in a few years, they're going to assume it's just another fad and not dive into the technology that is truly zero emission. So in order to support the actual rollout of heavy-duty vehicles, I'm highly in favor of you repealing this legislation. Thank you.
Okay. From Hayward.
Hello, Mr. Chair, members, Bonnie Holmes-Jen with the American Lung Association in California. I'll try to be brief, as everybody says, but we do continue to be opposed to the bill. We appreciate the amendments that were taken. We are certainly very concerned about cleaning up the air in the San Joaquin Valley. We're committed to that and to working with Mr. Perea on other efforts to do that. But this bill, unfortunately, we believe will create some real problems and disrupt efforts that are underway to develop longer-term zero-emission technologies across an array of applications, as you've just been hearing from the previous witness. We think the goal should be to apply the state greenhouse gas reduction funding to promote the cleanest possible options over the long term, and those options that will maximize both GHG reductions and criteria pollution reductions. And this bill doesn't do that. As you've stated in your analysis, it's basically a set aside over 5 years, $500 million, for natural gas trucks, and it would unfortunately preclude money from going to electric, hybrid electric, fuel cell, and it would limit the development of these other technologies, limiting zero-emission options, for example, for hybrid electric trucks and equipment in the ports, or for clean zero-emission school buses, those kinds of applications. There are other funding programs available to provide assistance to natural gas projects. I think many of those are stated in the analysis. So the bottom line is we believe this bill is jumping the gun. It's tying up funds that would that could be used to move ahead a broad array of clean air, zero-emission, heavy-duty applications. It's disrupting the process and removing discretion from the State Air Resources Board to appropriately direct these funds, which we think is very important to maintain. So we are urging a no vote.
Next.
Simon Murray, Director of NRDC's Vehicles and Fuels Program. We also are urging an opposed vote on this, a no vote on this. We had actually been part of, together with actually Tim Carmichael, the group that was coalition supporting SB 1204, which was actually designed to bring in an array of different technologies from the medium-duty off-road ports, including heavy-duty trucks. And unfortunately, the bill, just before the ink is dry, is changing it in a manner that effectively will preclude a lot of different categories that are being funded. Here's a chart of an array of different technologies that we actually need and see the importance of getting cleaned up. Currently, the allocation plan that ARB has is, in fact, diversifying the funding around the freight side. This bill would essentially take, for instance, if you apply the $150 million bucket, would it result in about 2/3 of that being directed towards one specific technology, one specific category within the goods movement sector. And, you know, I've been working for decades around clean air. I also have family members that suffer from asthma and respiratory illnesses, and I don't think we disagree with the goals of Assemblymember Perea in terms of cleaning up the air. It really is how to most effectively get there. And one of the concerns right now is that by cutting out some of the categories and pushing those out, we may actually be trading off emissions that we could achieve more effectively and in a broader sense for the freight sector. And I'd like to finally flag that we do want to see the most efficient trucks incentivized, not just the lowest NOx, but also the most efficient. One of the challenges around the natural gas engine side has been that they have had lower efficiencies than conventional diesel. That has affected the GHG performance, and in some cases today, natural gas trucks do emit more than diesel in terms of GHG emissions. Certainly we support and think the amendments help address some of this, but we also want to see the most efficient, cleanest engine technologies going forward funded. Thank you.
Good morning. Steve Wallach on behalf of the Alameda Contra Costa Transit District and the Center for Transportation and the Environment. They both oppose this bill. You know, we supported SB 1204 last year, which created a program that was supposed to bring together to fund projects that would bring to commercial viability zero-emission vehicles. As you know, AC Transit operates the largest zero-emission bus fleet, probably in the world, with 12 hydrogen fuel cell buses. But they aren't quite there commercially viable because there's issues that need to be worked out, particularly about the scale and producing the volume of vehicles purchased to bring down the cost. This is a program that would do that in its current form. CTE is also working on a zero-emission dryage truck program project with the Port of LA and Long Beach. This would be a hydrogen fuel cell dryage truck that would could potentially be expanded across the state. The way this bill is crafted would divert funding all the way to one certain type of technology and probably leave these dry without funding. It's one thing to say if you want to make this technology available for these funding programs, but to divert basically 2/3 of the money to one technology we don't think is appropriate, and we urge your no vote.
Others opposed to 857, AB 857.
Eddie Moreno on behalf of Sierra Club, California, in opposition.
Matt Kloppenstein on behalf of the Union of Concerned Scientists in opposition.
Michael Pimentel on behalf of the California Transit Association in opposition.
Environment California, opposition.
Okay. All done. All right, let's return it back to the committee. Senator Jackson.
Yeah, I completely understand the effort here. You know, the fact that 1 in 5 children has to carry around an inhaler is just a terrible statement about our lack of stewardship for the next generations. And so I completely appreciate what you're trying to accomplish. But I too share the notion that to designate a significant portion of these funds for a natural gas product as compared to the best product, and that's, I think, where the money should be going. Let's use that good old incentive. Let's dangle those dollars and see who can provide the best technology and can do it in a way that is going to reduce the emissions and greenhouse gases that we're all so anxious to do. So the fact that there was a young woman, very articulate, if you're looking for a job, I might have one for you. You know, the fact that there are zero emissions vehicles and there are all sorts of new technologies out there, and I hate to see us precluding those opportunities for a technology that is included, that's natural gas of all things. I just think that that this bill is way too limiting, and although I'm very impressed by the support that you've received, I think that these funds to achieve the same goal can be better spent. I think SB 1204 just passed last year. I'd like to see that have an opportunity to work and to encourage the great innovative minds that we have here in California in this state. So I just wanted to share with you, I'm going to be voting no on this bill, but not because, not for lack of concern about the issue. I just don't think this is, I think this is too stifling. I think it's too limiting, and for the reasons that exist in the, I think, a very thorough analysis, as well as the statements made by the opposition. And I wish I could suggest ways that I could support it. I appreciate you reducing to a third of these funds, but I think it's too limiting, and I think it moves us in the wrong direction. But appreciate your effort.
If I could comment, if I could just respond, and I mean, I appreciate your concerns, and I want to use the response not necessarily to change your vote, because I don't think you're going to, but just to sort of correct the record. First, I think it's important to note that the bill is technology neutral, so we don't call out any specific technology. But the other piece that I think is very important to think about, or at least to consider, is that the bill sets a very specific performance standard that requires a 90% reduction in smog-forming emissions compared to today's certified standards. So, so it partially addresses, I think, the concern that you have. Now, I think folks are mostly talking about natural gas because that is, I think, the most immediate opportunity in terms of an alternative fuel from diesel to be used. And, you know, my only worry, my only concern with the arguments from the opposition, well, I have several concerns, but as it relates to this particular line of questioning, I worry that we're going to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And as we wait for that perfect solution, my kids get to breathe the same dirty air. And we don't know how close or how far these perfect technologies are from being implemented, when we can, in fact, make a policy decision through this body that supports technologies that can today provide cleaner air than what we're currently breathing in my district, in my neighborhood, in my home. And so the opposition also brought up the fact that they're concerned about medium-duty trucks. Look, if somebody wants to introduce that bill, I'll support it. But we narrowly crafted this to apply to heavy-duty trucks because they are one of the largest, if not the largest, source of pollution that's running through our valley, and that's running through the South Coast Air Basin. And so we believe that the issue is so big, so problematic, that we have to specifically target these individuals, or these trucks, because they're going to have the biggest impact in neighborhoods and communities like mine that I live and where I'm raising my kids. And so I would also like maybe to ask our sponsors here, supporters, to also maybe briefly address.
Just 2 quick points in addition to the Assembly member. This bill does not make any technology ineligible as long as it meets the emission standards. So the zero emission technologies you were talking about would be eligible. The challenge is in the heavy-duty sector, they're not anticipated to be available for purchase for a decade or more. So there's a conscious decision with this bill to target a significant amount of the funding, back to Chair Wachowski's point on behalf of Senator Pavley. There's a balancing act here. How much do you invest in the long-term R&D development of that zero-emission technology, and how much do you spend in the near term to get the best available clean trucks on the road in the near term? But as Assemblymember Pereira said, it sets a very tough emission standard, 90% better than what's being sold today. And if you meet that, regardless of what your fuel or technology type is, you qualify for this incentive. If nobody has and today nobody has that product available for heavy-duty trucks. If nobody does in 2018, nobody gets an incentive. You have to meet that 90% cleaner emission standard. I just want to clarify that. So it's not, yeah.
So let's go.
Could we have the, I think this gentleman.
That's where I was going to go. But
okay, great.
Yeah, no, thank you for your question. We actually disagree that this is actually effectively not technology neutral. It does carve out specifically one engine manufacturer we're aware of may be able to make the technology by 2018, which happens to be a natural gas truck. So in terms of taking the amount of pie and focusing on that one technology, that's clearly going to be the one technology that makes that cutoff, as well as is eligible as we know it.
Other questions?
Just wanted to follow up for a second. Appreciate your comments. I mean, I understand that this is all very thoughtfully done, but if there's nothing available now in the heavy ones, and the goal is to reduce, this air pollution issue, but it is available now on the, the class 5 and 6. Why not encourage the 5 and 6 now, and let the heavier truck manufacturers know that if they can meet these standards, there will be money available? Isn't that what motivates innovation, is the fact that there will be a reward at the financial reward at the end of the day? So I just, and perhaps, I mean, I'm sure these aren't new questions for you, but they're questions that are just sort of keeping me from being able to support the bill.
Okay, thank you.
If I could, thank you, Mr. Chair. And as someone, while I was sitting on the Air Resources Board, obviously your district and the concerns and the air quality issues were just paramount. I mean, those areas are, we're killing kids, and it's sad. But my concern is with this bill and the kind of establishing that the prescriptive nature of it and the amount of money we're talking about and the amount of opposition I've received from businesses in my district who certainly look to develop those technologies and other alternative technologies. I can't believe the amount that I've heard from a number of different firms that are very concerned about what the effect this could have on them and their ability to develop and utilize that technology in the future. So I admire the work that you've continually been doing in the area of air quality for your district, and I will support it. I just have a difficult time with this one today, Henry. I'm sorry.
Others? Not seeing any questions. For everybody's education, the chair and the author have had numerous discussions about this. The author, I had suggested a 14,000 weight. That's not before us today, but those discussions were robust. As I've intimated before, there are 17 bills before us that are tapping into the greenhouse gas fund. This one is looking within the 1204. It's not a new program. It's within 1204. We're looking for some focus. I like pie, and I wish I were the pie cutter here on what programs were, how we were going to fund these and that balance. It's an important process that we go through so that members are able to articulate where they think the balance should go. But that's going to be saved for another day, about the actual 50% and 100 when that when all those bills, or the bills that still survive, get to appropriations. So you may close.
Sure, Mr. Chair, again, I want to thank you and your staff for working so hard with us to try to strike the right balance. This is a tough policy question, I think, for everybody involved, and I think it's tough because we're talking about how to address air quality and the reduction of greenhouse gases on a regional basis. I think it's easier when we can sort of, we can try to put policies and funding strategies in front of us where, every part of the state, will have the opportunity to move forward on an initiative, but it's tougher when not every region can compete for those same pots of funding when we look at statewide programs. Heard concerns about carve-outs and making it harder for other technologies. I mean, look, colleagues, we do a lot of carve-outs around here, and we've done a lot of carve-outs on this particular fund. In fact, unrelated to this fund, but a bill that I ran 2 years ago, AB 8 specifically called out hydrogen. Hydrogen is a technology that will benefit, I think, a lot of members on this dais in their districts. It's not going to benefit mine. There's not going to be a lot of hydrogen in the Central Valley, but there could be a lot of natural gas, which is a great opportunity to create a better future for our communities in terms of air quality. So I understand that as a member, a Democratic member of the Central Valley, I have authored bills, I have cast votes that is for the greater good of the state, that may have greater benefit in other members' districts. And now I come to you with an idea that helps allocate funding that will have a huge impact for the San Joaquin Valley Air Basin, as well as the South Coast Air Basin. And so we think we have a bill that has gone through, has gone through the ringer, through a lot of committees. But the policy question before you is a question of, can we make investments that significantly improve air quality in the near term as opposed to long term? We're doing a lot of long-term visioning in this state through a number of bills and funding sources, but can we invest in the near term, and should we have equity throughout the state when it comes to the use of these funds, and make sure that we take regional approaches to reducing air quality as opposed to hoping that that we have one solution that fits for every region. We know that California is a much more diverse state than that, and I would just respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Okay, we have Alameda County has 8 hydrogen buses, so thank you on AB 8. We have a motion by Senator Bates. As amended, I will be voting yes.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Item 17, AB 857 by Assemblymember Perea. The motion is due pass as amended and referred to Committee on Appropriations. Senators Wieckowski?
Aye.
Wieckowski, aye. Gaines? Bates? Bates, aye. Hill?
The renewable 30%, then 50% by renewable by 2020.
Right.
It steps up.
30% renewable starting in 2018, 50% by 2020.
But nothing on the weight.
Nothing on the weight. Okay. No.
Hill, no. Jackson? No. Jackson, no. Leno? No. Leno, no. Pavley? 2, 3.
Okay, well,
great.
The matter will remain on call.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to item number 19.